Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Click, listen, enjoy.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Book Chat. I'm your host, author Vivian E. Moore. I hope everyone is having a perfect Saturday. Saturdays are good, especially when I am not actually on the job working, but I am technically still working because I'm bringing the show to you live. It's been quite a day, not always happening in the weather, but that's okay. It's just a bit overcast, but I just want to bring a little sunshine to you today, despite the rain. So I hope that you got to sleep in late today, that you did everything that you needed to do, and that you are ready now to sit down and listen to me talk about the show. And also to all the dads, I hope you had a wonderful Father's Day last Sunday. I hope that your wives, your daughters, your sons took you out to eat or made you the perfect meal. So in talking about perfect, that is what the show is going to be geared toward today. So let's get right to it without further ado. The title of today's show is Just Like Grandma Used to Make, and the topic is the perfect story ingredients. Who doesn't like Sunday dinners at Grandma's house? Her special fried chicken seasoned to perfection, and mashed potatoes, banana pudding made from scratch, cakes, and pies. The wonderful holiday meals that kept you going back for seconds and even thirds. I know, right? I often wondered how my mother could go into the kitchen with seemingly nothing in the cupboard or the fridge, and like magic, create one of the best meals you ever tasted. Well, it was because she always had the perfect ingredients to create one-of-a-kind dishes, and it takes the same type of formula in creating flawless stories. The same principles apply when we prepare our creative minds in story development. Much like a chef, we need every element necessary to ensure our story will be blended properly and palatable when served. Not only this, but it also needs time, an essential part to each story, just like a pot of savory stew that tastes wonderful simply because it could simmer at the right temperature until ready to serve. We all know haste makes waste. So why would you rush instead of allowing your thoughts to marinate and simmer a while? Also, before putting pen to paper or type them out on a keyboard. Everything takes time. The world wasn't made in a day. It took 7 days. I'm sure God could have did it in less time if he wanted to. But I'm sure that was an element just to show that, sometimes if you just take your time and spread things out a bit, you'll still come out with the perfect plan or the perfect scenario, whatever it is that you're trying to do. An undeveloped story is the equivalent of an ill-prepared meal. It lacks taste, and we all know what that's about. Nobody likes a tasteless meal, and it also lacks the right amount of spices to even qualify as being appetizing. Who wants something that does not taste good? I've been places where the food looked great. It was like just laid out perfectly. Everything was just in place. It looked like a portrait. And then when you bit into it, it was horrible. I'm like, oh. So, anything can be made to look appetizing. But if you haven't taken the proper amount of time to actually make it appetizing, then it's just a waste of time. But one way to eliminate this blunder from happening is to follow one of Grandma's simple recipes. Come on now, would you bake a cake with meal instead of flour, or use salt when sugar is necessary? No, you would make a list of everything needed and then just go from there. Story development is much like your favorite recipe, at least those of us who write. We keep our notes nearby to be made available when needed, and often we add different elements, things that enhance the story instead of decreasing its punch. I, just like most folks, like variety and often experiment with different things to make my story creations more munificent. keep in mind, I know when to hold back on one thing and add another to maximize the flavor. Doing too much is dangerous. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And it's okay to take risks, though. Some of the best discoveries were made because someone wasn't afraid to delve a little deeper or push through further. Knowing when to do this is key. If you are a seasoned professional, meaning you've been doing whatever it is you do for longer than a minute, then you are already aware of what steps to take without having to guess at it. Now, I just want to give you a few examples of this. I'm a writer, published author, but I'm also an avid reader. I read every day, whether I'm listening to audiobooks or if I am actually, reading something on my Kindle app. I don't own a Kindle, but, I have the app. I have it on my iPod. I have it on my iPad, and I have it on my iPhone. I love Apple products, if you haven't guessed that by now. But anyway, I've read a ton of books. Starting this year, I read all the time, but this year has just been, my reading time has just been incredible because I have been introduced to a lot of different authors, a lot of new authors, a lot of new books, genres of books. And, and I'm one of those people, I'm a hard sell when it comes to most things. A good story is one of them. And I love it, to open up a book and I'm just engrossed in it within the very first paragraph. It's like I'm hooked. Those are the kind of stories I love. And those are the kind of stories that I write. But, it takes having the right ingredients to make that possible. And so, it's a learning process. Just like when you were first learning how to cook, your grandmother didn't come out of the womb knowing how to cook. Now, some people do, but others, they were taught, they were taught by their grandmothers and their mothers and grandmothers, just on and on and on and on. But still, there was some lessons to be learned, and you watched and you paid attention and you took notes when necessary, to learn how to start. Basically, you have to crawl before you can walk. That's just simple. But, but still, when you made that first dish, and I'll use myself as an example. I made my first meal. I think I was probably about, maybe about 13, 14 years old. My older sister, I would go visit with her on the weekends. I would come up to her house. And I love that, by the way, being able to go to my big sister's house and just hang out with her, eat great food, watch movies, all that fun stuff. But anyway, I had never fried fish before. And, I'm a Southerner. So, we eat fish, fried foods all the time. And so she asked me to fry the fish. Well, I was like, okay. So I went into the kitchen and did exactly what I saw my mother do whenever she was getting ready to fry to cook anything. I followed her steps, did everything that she did until it came to the frying of the fish part. Well, see, right back to when I said haste makes waste. Well, okay, so I know what I'm talking about. So anyway, instead of fried fish, we had scrambled fish because, first of all, I fried it, had the temperature turned up too high, and of course it fried it too fast, and then I flipped it too soon, before it was done all the way on one side, and of course it crumbled, so we had scrambled fish. Well, let's flash forward to a few months, and this was the next holiday that came around, which I think it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas. I think it was Thanksgiving. And mind you, this was the second time that I had, been in the kitchen to attempt to make a meal. But let me tell you, this time it was successful because, during that first time when I fried the fish up until the time when I had to cook this meal, I took notes. I asked questions. I paid attention. I did my research. And so that meal came out perfectly from start to finish. It came out perfectly. And the best part about it is everybody thought my mother had made this meal. But It was me. I did it. So, and that's what you have to do when you are creating stories. You have to take your time. You have to develop the story properly. You have to know what to add and what to take away. You can't rush it. I know that, you're excited because you're writing the story, and in your head it's the greatest thing ever. And you want to hurry up and get to the end. But that's not the most important part. It's one of the important elements, but it's not the most important part of the story. You got to have something at the beginning. You got to have something in the middle. And we've talked about this before. So that means that you got to have a steady flow all the way through until you get to the end. Because trust me, I've told you I've read a lot of books, and some were great and some weren't too great. But, I started reading them, so I had to finish them, because I had dedicated all this time. So I had to finish what I started. But anyway, they had the right elements. They had the right ingredients to make that story what it was. And so, that's just like Grandma used to make. Grandma is good at what she does. And so I want us as writers to also be good at what we do. And if we just follow her simple directions, then, we can accomplish it. So don't fret about it. And, because Grandmama never did. In fact, she kept a level head while planning some of the most glorious creations. And if you stick to the formula and use the perfect ingredients, you can't go wrong, and watch the compliments roll in. All right, folks, that's all I have for you today. And before I let you go, of course, I want to throw you these URLs. So if you will, grab yourself something to write with and something to write on, and I will get them out to you. Of course, the first one is to my Spreaker account, and that is at https://www.spreaker.com/user/author Vivian E. Moore. You can also check me out on Facebook, and that is at https://www.facebook.com/author Vivian E. Moore. You can also follow me like me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is God's Property 46. You can also check me out on Instagram because I upload weekly the show announcements on Instagram. It is https://Instagram.com/God's Property 51. And if you want to look at my website, it is https://vivianemore.wixsite.com/author Vivian E. Moore. And you can also go to my blog site, which today's show, the script will be there, and you can check it out, read it for yourself. And that is at https://vivianemore.blogspot.com. You can also check the show out on iHeartRadio podcast and also iTunes radio podcast as well. All right. So guys, I don't want to hold you too long. That's why we only do this show for 15 minutes, because I know you have a life. You don't want to spend your Saturdays listening to someone go on and on and on about whatever. But I just want you to have a good weekend. And I hope that you're planning to go to church tomorrow. Take a family friend, take a child, take a neighbor, take someone who does not go on a regular basis. And also tell somebody that you love them, because tomorrow is promised. Today may be the only day you get to say that. I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.